10 manipulation tactics narcissistic women use to control men. If you have ever felt confused, guilty, ashamed, or like you are losing yourself around a woman, listen closely, because confusion is never random. Guilt is never accidental, and identity loss is always engineered. Narcissistic women use tactics, not love. Patterns, not partnership. Control, and not connection. So today we are breaking down the 10 manipulation tactics narcissistic women use to control men. The ones that keep you stuck, doubting yourself, and sacrificing your peace to keep the relationship afloat. And once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. And once you understand them, she loses the power she once had over you. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Narc Free Man Podcast.
The first tactic is love bombing. It's the hook before the trap. Every man who's ever loved a narcissistic woman says the same thing. He'll say, I have never felt a connection like that before. Or he'll say, she made me feel chosen. Or she mirrored everything I wanted in a partner. Exactly. Love bombing isn't love, it's data collection. The female narc studies your wounds, your dreams, your insecurities, your values, your weaknesses, your triggers, your type of affection, and then she becomes your fantasy. Why? Because a man who feels seen is easier to manipulate. So the love bombing stage is designed to bond you before she reveals her true self. It's the psychological sugar that makes you ignore the poison later. So if the beginning of your relationship with her felt too perfect, that wasn't chemistry. That, my friend, was strategy. Let's talk about tactic number 2, gaslighting. So gaslighting is when she makes you question your memory, your perception, your judgment, your sanity. So gaslighting sounds like, I never said that. Or she'll say things like, you are remembering it wrong. Or you are overreacting. Or you are too sensitive. Or you are imagining things. Gaslighting is psychological warfare because it attacks the one thing you must protect at all costs, your clarity. When she rewrites reality, you become dependent on her version of the truth. Let me give you a real example from a client of mine. So this man said, Phil, I caught her flirting in her DMs. She said they were old messages from years ago, but the date stamp was yesterday. So he confronted her. And of course, she cried. She blamed him. She said he was invading her privacy. Now, by the end of the argument, he ended up apologizing. That's gaslighting at work, turning her betrayal into your guilt. Now, her goal is simple. Control the narrative, control the man. Now, let's get into tactic number 3 here. The silent treatment. Most men underestimate how powerful the silent treatment is until they have lived it. A narcissistic woman doesn't punish you by yelling. She punishes you by disappearing. Like no eye contact, no acknowledgement, no affection, no conversation. She trains you like a dog. And if you behave according to her rules, she gives attention. If you push back, she removes connection. So why does it hurt so badly? Well, because silence creates things like anxiety, uncertainty, fear of abandonment, compulsive apologizing, and relationship instability. So eventually, you start doing whatever it takes just to restore the peace. And you'll stop bringing up issues. You stop expressing your needs. You stop setting boundaries with her because you are afraid of losing the tiny crumbs of affection she gives you. That's not a healthy relationship. That's conditioning. So let's get into tactic number 4, which is guilt tripping. So this tactic, it's subtle, but it's brutally effective. Whenever you have a need, like a boundary, a concern, a request, or a desire for change, the female narcissist turns it into your wrongdoing. If you say something like, I feel like you don't respect my time, she'll say something like, wow, so I'm the problem again? You say, can we talk about what happened earlier? She says, I can't believe you are attacking me. You go to the gym, she says, you'd rather be there than with me? Or if you take time for yourself, she says, you are abandoning me. Now, none of this is real guilt. It's manufactured guilt designed to control your behavior. She uses guilt to keep you compliant, make you second guess yourself, punish independence, and reward self-sacrifice. This is why so many good men stay too long in a toxic relationship, because guilt feels like responsibility when it's actually manipulation. Hey guys, quick interruption to the show. I want to say something directly to the man listening right now. If you keep trying to do this alone, you are going to stay stuck in the same loop. The same arguments, the same anxiety, the same emotional exhaustion that's been draining you for months or even years. You don't need more YouTube videos. You don't need more hope. You need strategy, clarity, and someone who has walked hundreds of men out of the exact same darkness you are in. That's why I offer one-on-one coaching, private, personalized, tactical support designed for men dealing with a female narcissist, trauma bonds, co-parenting chaos, and the emotional fallout of leaving a toxic relationship. I'll help you build a clear exit plan, regain your strength, stop reacting to her, and become the 2.0 version of yourself she can never manipulate again. So if you are done surviving and you are ready to rebuild, go to philipcdugas.com or click the link in the description below to apply. Now, let's get into the 5th tactic these female narcissists use to manipulate and control men. It's triangulation. It's when she brings in a third person to destabilize you emotionally. Now, this could be an ex, a coworker, a male friend, a complete stranger online, even one of her own children. She'll say things like, my ex used to do that for me, or other guys would be grateful to be with me, or maybe I should talk to someone who listens, or he understands me better than you, or she'll compare you to men she knows will trigger insecurity. Why? Because insecurity makes you work harder for her approval. And triangulation is one of the most painful tactics because it attacks your masculine identity, your worth, your adequacy, and your ability to be enough. But here's what you need to remember. She triangulates not because you are lacking, but because she needs constant supply. A secure man threatens narcissistic control. An insecure man feeds it. Now let's get into tactic number 6, financial control. Now, financial control is one of the most underestimated forms of manipulation and one of the most dangerous. And a narcissistic woman knows this truth. The man who controls his money controls his choices. The man who doesn't gets controlled by someone else. So the female narc chips away at your financial confidence. Here's what it looks like. She criticizes how you spend money. She demands full access to your accounts, but hides hers. She calls every purchase irresponsible unless it benefits her. She sabotages your goals like a promotion, a new business idea, or extra hours overtime at work. She'll overspend, then blame you for the financial stress. She puts everything in her name. She refuses to work, but shames you for earning too little. I once coached a man who said, "Phil, she convinced me I was terrible with money. It turns out she was draining our savings behind my back." That's exactly what happens. And financial control is psychological handcuffs. And once she has them on your wrists, she owns your future. Here's the truth she never wants you to know. A man with financial clarity becomes impossible to manipulate. And that's why she attacks your stability. Okay, let's talk about the emotional roller coasters. Now, this tactic is pure conditioning. She creates emotional highs and lows so intense that you become addicted to the cycle. You know this one. One day she's affectionate, the next she's cold. One night she's loving, the next morning she hates you. One moment she praises you, the next she destroys you. And your brain becomes wired to chase the high again, to restore peace, or to get back to the good moments to win her approval. But here's the brutal truth, guys. Those good moments weren't love. They were rewards for your compliance. And the chaos wasn't conflict. It was punishment for your independence. Narcissistic women use emotional roller coasters the same way casinos use bright lights and dopamine to keep you at the table, losing more than you realize. If she can't control your emotions, she can control your decisions. And if she can control your decisions, she owns your life. All right, let's get into tactic number 8 here. She'll weaponize intimacy. So this one is a bit dark, but you need to hear this. Narcissistic women weaponize intimacy in 2 ways. Number 1 is they show you conditional intimacy, like be who I want you to be or intimacy disappears. She uses affection, sex, attention, and validation. She uses those as bargaining chips to force compliance. She knows men often bond through intimacy, so she controls it to control you. The second thing is exploiting vulnerability. Everything you confess to her becomes ammunition. For example, things like your fears, your childhood wounds, your insecurities, your mistakes, and your pain. She stores these things like bullets, and when she's ready, she fires them. A man I coached told me a while back, he said, "Phil, she used the deepest thing I ever shared with her in the middle of an argument." Exactly. A narcissistic woman doesn't see intimacy as connection. She sees it as leverage. And once she weaponizes intimacy, you start hiding your emotions. You stop expressing your needs. You become numb. You feel alone, even when she's right next to you. Now, that's not a healthy partnership, guys. That's emotional captivity. All right, let's get into tactic number 9, which is her playing the victim. The moment accountability shows up at her door, she disappears into victimhood. And watch how fast it happens, guys. If you express a need, she cries. You set a boundary with her, she tells people you are abusive. If you catch her lying, she claims she's traumatized. If you bring up disrespect, she says you are impossible to please. If you ask for basic decency, she says you are hurting her. She plays the victim because victims get sympathy, right? And that sympathy gives power. She weaponizes the world against you, like friends, family, her therapist, even your kids. And suddenly, before you know it, you are defending yourself against accusations instead of addressing the real issue, her behavior. And this tactic turns you into the villain in a story where you were the one trying to save the relationship. But here's the freeing truth, guys. A woman who always plays the victim is the one causing the most harm. You weren't crazy. You weren't abusive. You weren't unstable. You were manipulated. Now, let's get into the last tactic here. Tactic number 10, threats and abandonment. So when all the other tactics fail, when she senses you are waking up, when she feels her control slipping, she uses the nuclear option, fear. This looks like an example of, she'll say things like, if you leave me, I'll ruin your life, or the kids will hate you, or you'll never see your kids again, or you'll regret this, or you'll end up alone, or no one will love you like I do. Ridiculous, right? Some men hear threats of self-harm. Others get threats about court. Others get threats about finances. Some get threatened through kids, through parental alienation. But here's the truth, guys. A woman who needs fear to keep you was never planning to love you. Her final tactic is always exposure. Once she can't control you with affection, she controls you with consequences. But a man who stands firm, a man who builds boundaries, has standards, a man who documents everything, a man who protects his peace, he becomes unreachable. And narcissistic control collapses the moment you stop responding to fear. So, brother, these 10 manipulation tactics I mentioned today are not random. They are not misunderstandings. They are not miscommunication. They are not normal relationship problems. They are control strategies designed to keep you confused, compliant, and emotionally bankrupt. But once you recognize the game, you stop playing it. And once you stop playing it, you start winning your life back. So guys, if what I talked about today hit hard, if it felt like I was reading your story, then you are waking up. And waking up is the first step to walking out of a toxic relationship with a female narcissist. So if you are ready to keep learning, breaking patterns, and building your inner strength, learning tips and tools to leave a toxic relationship, make sure to go to my YouTube channel, the Narc Free Man Podcast, and hit subscribe. I drop episodes like this every week that help men detach from her manipulation, rebuild their identity, and walk in their power again. So don't do this alone. Your healing starts with clarity, and clarity starts right here.